Don't worry, I'm back. I'm here. What just happened? I don't know what just happened, but as doing the countdown,
it was just black.
Yeah, it switched my camera from my 4K one to my integrated one that's just built into my laptop. So I was about to not be here for a second, but I'm here. I'm here. Joe's here. Drew's here. This is the Round the 4-2 Fantasy Football Show, back for another week. And this is really grind time now, boys. We're really getting into the thick of things.
It's getting nasty. I've got like draft things happening like every day of the week for the next 2 weeks. It's just like, this is where I feel the most shame and like how involved I am in the fantasy community. Cause it's just like, oh, like when are you free? I'm like a 2-hour window, like at this random time that no one else can probably make. And we're here, we're in it. I'm ready.
I think the correct word is admirable.
Or addicted.
How many leagues are we talking about this year? How many leagues?
Let me look. So I have
7. I upped it.
I have 4 dynasty leagues, 5 dynasty leagues actually. Well, 4.5. One is like a keeper auction style, and I kept 4 people, so I don't know if that's a dynasty or not. I also came in last place in that league last year. Shout out Allen Robinson. And then I have another like that crazy keeper one that I have. So then that's 7. I have one on Yahoo with some former work people. And then on ESPN, I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So that's another 4. So what's that, 11? 10?
I don't have enough. Invite me to your league. I don't have enough.
Ricky Dunks is in 11. He said 11 leagues total for him.
And in a hot tub.
I was going to say, what a flex. The first comment that we got was watching from the hot tub.
That's better than a sauna.
You know what? I'm doing the show from my hot tub next week if we're going to be like this.
Injury updates. We do have a couple to talk about. Let's just start here. Hometown Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously a couple injuries talked about. Najee himself revealing his own injury. It wasn't just him getting stepped on. He was dealing with a Liz Frank sprain. How many times are we going to talk about this specific injury? Obviously not the same severity of like what Travis Etienne dealt with last year or anything like that. But Drew, are you worried at all about how this could limit him early in the season, if at all?
Not at all. We already saw him on the field. With Liz Frank injuries, you either have a stable foot or you don't have a stable foot. So if you can get out on the field at all, that means that he has a stable foot and he should have no issues.
So is that a break when that happens? And like ETN last year, like, because I know they've said that this is a sprain.
Right.
Well, I don't understand how you can sprain a bone.
It's a ligament that's around that bone. So if you get hurt, it's tearing off the bone. That's what ETN was having.
Gotcha.
So just a sprain's just a mild contusion of the foot. So he's going to be good. You'd know, like if you have a severe Liz Frank, you can't get on the field at all. It's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess the other part of that is I can't imagine that Coach Tomlin was very happy with Najee revealing that himself to people, but that's neither here nor there at this point. Najee will be ready to go. Deante Johnson also he got banged up a little bit in this preseason game, but Tomlin alluded to the fact that if this is a regular season game, he's probably back out there. I don't like to speculate on injuries, but when he got up himself and like even held the ball out with the shoulder that he landed on, I was like, okay, obviously it wasn't like too serious. But you know, again, we gotta, just for context here, Drew, are you worried at all about Deante Johnson with this at all?
Nope, not worried at all. Honestly, when he fell on that ball, I just thought that he had the wind knocked out of him, and especially the way he reacted. So I'm not worried. They said he would come back in. Deontay's ready to roll too.
Yeah, and obviously fantasy show, unless you're doing IDP, you don't have to talk about TJ Watt, but kind of the same situation there with him as well. Very similar to the Thibodeau injury, at least looking how the block and the type of injury that was there. But yeah, I not too many injuries to talk about. Thank God. That's a good thing if we're not coming on here and talking about a whole bunch of injuries from fantasy football perspective. I see Derek is here as well. Derek, I think that he pulled the trigger, by the way. I'm not sure if he reached out to you guys, because he reached out to me and was like, he acquired Kyle Pitts in a keeper league. And yeah, I know. I was telling him, I was like, dude, like that's a player that I'm acquiring. Like, I don't want to say regardless of what the compensation is going the other way. But you know, you're talking about obviously like a dynasty number 1 tight end. So
for sure.
I've submitted 1 million offers in the one dynasty league. I don't have him in, and I just keep getting rejected over and over again. I don't even know what to offer at this point. I at one point I offered a running back, a wide receiver, and George Kittle, to get him because
Hmm.
for Dynasty, he's 21 years old. You're not even gonna have to worry about the tight end position for 10 years unless he gets hurt. And that's what I want. I don't even want to think about it.
Right. Yeah. All right. So switching from injuries to cuts, another unfortunate thing. We know what today means. A lot of guys around the league, unfortunately, losing their jobs. Marlon Mack just brought in by the Houston Texans. Drew's guy, Damian Pierce, making obviously a big impact. We've been hearing the entire preseason about the Damian Pierce train. It's full steam ahead at this point with Marlon Mack being cut by the Texans. I would say, how do we think that this plays out? But I think like we already answered that question. It's Damian Pierce. He's going to be RB1 with the Houston Texans.
How's it feel to be right, Drew? Is it a good feeling?
Wouldn't
I
know.
have a screenshot on my phone about you saying about how I'm always right, and I kept that because I know it's a lie. But I've been on Damian Pierce since before the draft. I texted Zach the moment that play happened at Florida when his helmet came off for like the 10-yard line and he just dogged his way into the end zone. I was like, I'm owning this guy in every single league, and I owned up to that. Every single league. I traded up into the second round of our one dynasty league to get him, and I'm so happy. They said that he's an elite pass protector in the backfield too, so he's not going to be coming off the field even on passing down. So if he can protect the quarterback when he's not even going out in routes, there's no reason to take him off the field. So right. I hope that he's on the field as much as possible. I think he's going to be an RB2. Hopefully I'm not wrong. I think Rex Burkhead could be a little annoying throughout the season with some big blowout games. I might throw him in there, but I love Damian Pierce. I will continue to own him and everything. And I'm a little pissed off that I still have 2 drafts to go, and this is already out of control. I might not be able to get him at that point if he's going in the top 5 rounds.
Yeah, the deployment of Pierce is going to be very interesting because Burkhead is like a prominent receiving back. We know that he has that in the arsenal. So that's kind of how he was used in New England. That's how he was used last year for Houston. I don't really see him as like a between the tackle sort of player, very effective in the red zone. But Pierce being able to pass block, I think if you look back at someone say like Antonio Gibson, who had a really strong camp, had a really strong preseason, took that job. He came off the field a lot of times in his rookie season because he couldn't pass block, and McKissick was so good at that. So being able to have that last piece, which is something that usually is developed over time as a running back, that's going to be huge for him. As far as like who would you take him, like how early would you take him in the draft? We were talking about this a little bit before the show. So if we're thinking about like ranges of running backs, I don't know if I could take him like before Miles Sanders.
I would.
I could take him before like a Kareem Hunt, Tony Pollard, Rashad Penny, Cordarrelle Patterson, but I don't think I could take him over like Elijah Mitchell, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs. Just because of the situation.
I was recently in a draft where he went above all those guys, and I didn't get him. It's the only one in a redraft that I don't have him. I know you said
what round is that you're talking about? Those guys going in though.
Let me see if I can get an exact. Let me look at it.
The last time I pulled ADPs, like that's going to be like in your 5th or 6th round. To me, that's too rich for my blood. I think that he's still a part of that running back dead zone that I'm personally trying to avoid in drafts. But if you're going to employ, say, like a 0 RB draft strategy, which is something that we're going to go through later in the show, then I do think that that's somebody that you're going to end up looking at in those middle rounds, just because I think the one thing that's fun or enticing about him is that you don't really know what that upside is. We know that Josh Jacobs is probably going to average around 12 points a game. He's probably not going to do anything flashy. He's probably going to get hurt. Somebody like Miles Sanders, it's like, will he score more than 0 touchdowns? You would think so, but like we know that Philadelphia is going to probably have a 3-headed committee in some capacity. So not knowing what he is, it's like he could be Elijah Mitchell, but he also could be, I don't know.
If he absolutely does, it's going to hurt me to no end. Like I will feel the pain. I like him over Sanders for that same reason you said with the 3-headed committee. I like Mitchell because we've seen it. But I just think that if you go 0 RB strategy, if you can come out with A.J. Dillon and Damian Pierce as your RB1 and RB2, I think that you're just going to destroy your league.
So the thing with Derek, too, is I know that he's asking this question because he's got to find running back because of choosing to make this trade for Pitts. in this league and the draft picks that he's not going to have and that he does have remaining. So I know he's looking for some running back value. And with Pierce flying up the draft charts, he probably doesn't want to see that. But I know Drew, for validation reasons, does want to see that. So I got him round 8, draft? By the way, my draft on Saturday.
Is this a rookie draft?
I don't believe so.
That for Derek is doing, because you said that.
I don't know.
He doesn't have any picks or anything because he traded everything away for picks.
No, so it's a 4 keeper.
Oh, okay. So
I think that he made that trade for Pitts, and he's now like he has to keep him. He's one of his picks to keep him. Yeah. So the other one to talk about, and this is actually going to be interesting because I can tie in one of my bold predictions with this one, is Sony Michel getting cut by the Dolphins. Running back. We know what Magic Mike there wants to do with running backs, but Sony Michel not going to be part of that backfield. I'll let you guys touch on this first, because like I said, I'm going to tie in a bold prediction here that I have.
Go ahead, Drew. I'll let you start, because I know that you still don't have a lot of optimism towards this offense, specifically for the running backs.
I'm more risk averse. We know that. I don't like to go into backfields where I just have no idea what to expect week to week. So if there's an injury to Raheem Mostert, which is likely, unfortunately, Chase Edmonds obviously is going to be a stud, but there could be injuries to Chase Edmonds as well. They both have shown that they can't handle a full workload year to year. So if you're going to go and get Edmonds late, he's a great ADP right now for drafting him, a great value. You can get Raheem Mostert probably off waivers. So I don't really have an issue if you snatch him up late. And then if there's an injury to him, you could probably still end up getting Mostert. But I just like to avoid those types of backfields. I just think that they're annoying and stressful, and it's just not worth the time of trying to figure out who's going to be the guy each week.
So somebody, I think thinking about Elijah Mitchell and like what is happening, kind of what we talked about earlier today with the Rams. Like, how do I view like those situations playing out? If we look at San Francisco the last 4 or 5 years, they've had a lot of rotational pieces, and they have this perception that they are a running back committee. I don't buy into that. I think that they have their pecking order, and when somebody gets hurt, that they just go to the next person, and it doesn't really change the game plan. It's like, all right, here's the order of guys that we like, and we're going to play them. And then when I will use them anymore, it's like, all right, next man up, let's go and do it.
I don't think you ever know who that next man is, though.
I think you do, though. The only
Hasty when he was the next man, and then they were giving the ball to Kyle Juszczyk the whole night. It just didn't make sense to me.
I think you do know that a bit, though. I mean, the only thing really surprising last year was when Mitchell leapfrogged into the second spot. But I think to get to the Miami side of it, Chase Edmonds got paid a good amount of money. Mostert got like a 1-year prove-it deal.
Yep.
And then they still had Myles Gaskin, who was like a fantasy. He was a zero running back guy that kind of busted for everybody last year, right?
So I hated him last year.
The reason why I'm bringing up San Francisco and the reason why I'm bringing up the Rams is because the new head coach, Magic Mike, was the running game coordinator for San Francisco. So I think that I don't know how many games Edmonds is going to be able to survive, but I think Edmonds is going to be that guy until he can't. And then I think Mostert will be that guy till he can't. And then you just kind of go back and forth with it. So to me, I think he's a big value right now. So I like it a lot. Sony Michel leaving, I just think it clears up that pecking order, but he didn't ever have any competition to Mostert at all or into what's his face? I just blanked out. Chase Edmonds.
Zach got something to say, and I think I'm going to like it. Shaking his head.
Chase Edmonds is going to finish this year as a top 15 running back.
You think so?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I got some notes. Sir. I got some notes here on this on why I believe this is going to happen. So over the last 2 seasons in Arizona, there was 15 games where he played 50% of the snaps. In those contests, he finishes a top 24 running back 2/3 of the time. 67.
How many games is he on the field, though? This is the thing. That's where I'm all about. I just don't think he can handle the workload.
But hold on. Now in Miami, they revamped the offensive line a little bit. They brought in Armstead. They paid him. They brought in Connor Williams from the Cowboys. He was 11th and 20th over the last 2 seasons in yards created per touch. And he's also just 1 year removed from leading all running backs in terms of slot targets and receiving yards. That happened in 2020. I just think that this is the guy for Miami until he's not.
So Are we going to go off of points per game, or are we going to go off total points? Because I just don't think that he can handle the workload. That's why I'm okay with drafting him, because his value is insane. I just don't think he can handle the workload.
Hey, a bold prediction. So
right.
That's what I'm going based off.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if he can handle that workload.
Should we keep track of these this year? Because I feel like we didn't go back and rip on all of my.
So I have mine in my notes. I'm just not going to delete the note. Okay. That will be.
I printed mine out, so I'll just keep it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sick. Glad we got to put the banner in
So
there.
You guys don't necessarily have to throw any out there right now. I just knew that mine was going to tie in if we were to talk about the Miami backfield.
I like it. So
go ahead.
I was going to say the one that comes to mind immediately for me this year, the boldest prediction I guess that I have is that Isaiah McKenzie is going to outscore Gabe Davis this year in Buffalo. Just looking at like everything that they have and the way that they've used the offense in the past, I think that the slot receiver is ultimately going to be the number 2 person. So we'll see how it works in practice. But the bold one for me, McKenzie over Davis.
Can I chime in on that?
He was my 13th round pick, by the way.
McKenzie?
Yep.
So I actually like both guys for different reasons. I just think that Isaiah McKenzie, I think, is going to be safer because it's really hard to predict touchdowns, but I think that Davis is going to score a lot of touchdowns. I think McKenzie's going to get a lot of PPR looks, and he's going to rack up some points as well. And obviously, McKenzie's a way better value. He's not even getting drafted in a lot of leagues.
No.
So I love that. I have both of them on multiple dynasties. So like I'm in on both. I just think that they're both going to be good in different ways. I just think that the Bills offense is so good that they might be able to handle 3 wide receivers in it, honestly.
So when I did the stats look up on that, there's only been 2 or 3 instances where you've had 3 top 30 receivers. So it was 2018 was the year that Ben, last year before he got hurt, right?
Yeah.
So 2018, you had 3 for Pittsburgh, and then Cincinnati did it last year with Boyd, Chase, and Higgins. So it could happen. Josh Allen has the underlying stats to support it, but I don't know. I don't know if the skill's there. It's just.
I think that it is. I don't know. I think Josh Allen's really good. I think the only one that's questionable in terms of skill could be McKenzie, because we only saw it like 2 weeks in his whole career. It's just the position that he plays. I think that Gabe Davis is just crazy talented, and I think he has crazy touchdown upside. I would be shocked if he has less than like 12 touchdowns this year. I just think he's that good.
That's a bold prediction in itself.
Yeah. I told you last week I'm placing a bet on him at plus 4,000 to lead the NFL in touchdowns. I just think that it's possible. I think he's going to score a ton.
Plus 4,000. That's actually where Pickens started out for Roy odds, and then it obviously shot up like crazy.
Right. All right,
I mean,
I gotta get that up on the screen. Let's just make like I need that documented. And if you hit on that bet, I mean, let me borrow a 20. Let me just hold it.
Ricky's he tweeted us this too. Najee will be RB1. I mean,
I like that.
I mean, if Ricky comes in and like we can get some extra offensive line help or something, man. Like we need some bulldozers out there for that dude. That's gonna be the biggest roadblock. I mean, from what we've seen, from what we've heard, it's like that O line is just tough.
Yeah, great addition today, by the way, in Jesse Davis.
You want me to do one more before we go into a draft?
We got a comment, but you can start talking, I guess, and then I'll just put this up on the screen.
We can do this quick because I'll transition into 0 RB.
All right. What y'all think about my team? 8-man league, full PPR. Brady, Henry, Fournette, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra, Kittle, and Aaron Jones. Off my bench, I got Waddle, Juju, Kirk, Pollard, Dylan, Woods, James
Robinson, probably.
Okay. All right.
Hold on. Put that back up there. I'm slow. Thank you. Full PPR, Brady, Henry, Fournette, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra, Kittle. Yeah. I mean,
8-man league.
That's the hard part. Is it's like with 8-man league, it's less about drafting well, but it's really more about like picking the right players every week. Because if you have players going off on your bench, then that's the hard part in my opinion. So it's not that it's any less skill, but the skill is more about execution and you can get away with like a poor draft. Because if you were to drop like Woods right now, you could pick up a Robert Woods type player in waivers, but how do you decide like to bench like AJ Brown this week? Or how do you know when to put in Dillon over Fournette? So to me, that's the challenge. I think that there's a lot of good bones there and players with high upside. And then I would be holding on to my waiver for dear life if you have a high waiver priority, which based on taking Henry early, it looks like was the first pick off the board. I would imagine that you've got to be on the back end of that. So I would be holding on for life for waiver claims.
I can already tell that if I had this team, I would be like pissed every single week because he's going to make the decision between Aaron Jones and Dillon. And if that ends up being close to what Drew's thinking, it's going to be with that backfield.
Does he? So it's actually funny. I'll answer both your questions first. The way he's going to know is by looking at your charts each week. Secondly, this is a perfect transition to my bold prediction. So, yeah. So one of my bold predictions is that Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon will both be top 15 running backs, and then the Packers will have 0 wide receivers in the top 30. And the reason why that is, I went back 5 years. Adams, Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, they all were top like 10 to 15 wide receivers each year. He's never had a second wide receiver that was more than wide receiver 47. I don't think that they have a wide receiver on that team right now that's going to step in and he's going to command the type of targets that's going to allow them to be a top 10 to 15 wide receiver. I think he's going to spread the ball around. And by the time he does figure out which guy he wants to trust, it's not going to be enough time for them to put up enough volume to reach a top 10 to 15 wide receiver ranking. I think that this team is built to run. And I think that AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones are both going to get a crap ton of touches throughout the season. I think that both of them are going to be top 15 running backs at the end of the season.
Wow.
So if you had them both on your team, you're playing both of them.
Yeah, I think that AJ Dillon is a flex play every week. I think Aaron Jones is obviously a must start. I think that Aaron Jones is going to get majority of the targets in the red zone in the passing game, and I think AJ Dillon's going to get the carries. I think they're both going to be on the field at the same time, and I think that they're just going to utilize the crap out of them.
So a quote from Matt LaFleur, which this is coming from the Fantasy Football newsletter. This is something that gets sent out every Thursday. They also have like a Twitter account and stuff and a Discord that you can join. But they send out pretty much a bunch of news clips every week. So if you're not following them or if you're not subscribed to that, highly recommend. There's a lot of good information. But Matt LaFleur this past week called Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon running backs 1A and 1A. He said they were 2 of the premier backs in our league and that they can do anything.
They're going to run the ball a ton, and both guys are going to be on the field together, and they're just going to pound them. And I fully expect top 15 running back for each of them.
Counterpoint, Aaron Rodgers and Romeo Doubs are lunch buddies.
Boom.
That's just because Rodgers is stealing his lunch. He's a rookie.
It's probably because he's high.
We know what's happening week 1, though. Sammy Watkins.
Oh, yeah.
He's
in the lineup.
Best play. He's already in my lineup.
Ricky has Gabe Davis in my lead, so he obviously hopes that he gets those 12-plus touchdowns Drew was talking about. All right, so I guess we can jump into some mock drafts now.
All right, cool. Let me pull that up real quick. You want to just talk about like what we're gonna do as far as the draft for today?
While you load, I can give one more bold prediction because it's a short one.
Oh man! All right.
Sure. Okay.
We keep loading. I predict that the Seahawks have 0 top 30 running backs and 0 top 30 wide receivers, and my reasoning is because they suck.
Bro, they gotta have something.
No.
You think they're gonna get shut out every game?
I think that Penny's gonna be good at the beginning, and then I think he's gonna fall off, and then I think Walker's gonna come in, and then by the time it gets there in total points, they're just not gonna be top 30. And then their wide receivers, their quarterbacks stink. We've been over this. Like it's just they're not gonna be able to do it for them. I think DK Metcalf's touchdown dependent, and he ain't getting Gabe Davis's 12 touchdowns.
Oh my god.
I told you, I'll be spicy with these sometimes. Like,
but they're going to be losing every single week. Like,
I don't care if they have garbage time. Like, they're just not going to do it anyways. They're going to score like 15 points a game, and it's just going to be a different guy every week.
You see Manny in here?
Yeah, Manny Max.
I love that guy.
Browns defense is first defense off the board.
I
picked him in like the 6th round. I hear.
I messaged Manny the other day because I was trying to find a Myles Garrett jersey for Sarah for our anniversary, I forgot that I bought her one last year, so I'm really glad that I couldn't find one. She's like, yeah, I have like the Color Rush. I was like, no, you don't.
We would have been doing a Myles Garrett jersey giveaway.
Yeah, that would go so well.
Luckily, for around the 412, all the giveaways are rigged, so we'll just give it to Manny.
That's true.
Initially we bought. That's why I bought the Mason jersey, so we could do like the Myles Garrett Mason thing for Halloween. But
you wanted to, for your Halloween costume, you just wanted to show everybody an assault crime.
Yes. All right. Anyways, yeah, we'll jump into this. Let me share my screen on here. We can do this. Cool. Excellent. Okay.
Bam.
All right, so we're back in the Fantasy Pros Draft Simulator. So if you didn't watch the show last week, this is a really good tool to quickly go through mock drafts, just so you can get a sense of like where things are at. Depending on what leagues you're in or what your league settings are, you can adjust like how many available positions that there are, and you can also decide like what rankings that you use. So like Drew, for example, I think a lot of your leagues are in ESPN, right? So when you're doing your mock drafts, then it would make sense for you to focus more on like the ESPN ADP than like a composite ADP, because that's going to be more in tune with what you're doing. So a big example of that, AJ Dillon. I did a auction draft last night. I had AJ Dillon valued for around $20. ESPN still has him ranked pretty low. He was valued by ESPN for $1. I ended up paying like 23. I ended up paying like 23 because there was other people in the league that were like, no, this is not going to happen. And I was like, I got to have this guy. So that was that. But if you know your position, you can select it. We'll just go random and see where we land. So we'll draft this one third. We had a question from Tyler last week about doing like a zero running back strategy.
Yeah, and he's not here this week, so I don't even know if we should do it. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll still do it. He can watch. He'll watch it later.
He'll watch it back.
Yeah, he watches it late.
Yeah, cool. So I randomized that. We did the full PPR, and then let's get this started. So going off the clock here. So Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey. I would say that Eckler is probably going to be your pick there. You could homer pick it and go with the Najee, but I'm probably going to go consensus and take Eckler there. Any objections to that, my friends?
I thought we were going 0 RB because he's a runner.
Oh, shit. You're right. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, let's try this again. Bold prediction. I am an idiot.
Shout out to Marcus Rose in the chats. It's way past his bedtime, and he's still on here watching us at 7 o'clock. So I would go Justin Jefferson.
I thought he'd wake up at like 3 a.m. to watch this.
He set his alarm at 6:30. He took a nap and then woke back up, and now he's going to go back to bed right after.
Jeopardy's going to be on soon. It'll be lit. Okay, so we're not going to go take Austin Eckler or reach for Najee. So where are you going between Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp?
I like Justin Jefferson more this year.
Jefferson.
Yep.
Oh, man. Getting spicy already. I mean, obviously, you're going to get one of those two guys if you're in those first 4 picks.
Wait, do you want to make it? You can make a case if you want for Cooper Kupp. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I'm going to make the case, but it's obviously a democracy here. But a guy that finished 15 times in the top 12 last year, even if he regresses a little bit, is insane. But, I mean, Jefferson is also in that same offense now. So I get both sides of it. I don't think there's a wrong choice. It's just, I don't know.
Justin Jefferson said that he's going to have 2,000 yards receiving this year. So I believe him. That's my.
Well, it's like one we saw do it last year, but like you said, it's not possible. I guess it's possible. He's not going to have that exact same season again, but we saw him do that. And even if he drops off, he's still like pretty firmly wide receiver 1. I mean, the dude had 30 more targets than the second highest, something like that. Like it was just stupid.
What if Jefferson does that now?
But that's what I'm saying. But it's an expectation that he's going to take that leap. Like we've already seen Cooper Kupp do it.
Right. Yeah, he had about one more target. So Cooper Kupp was at 11.2 targets per game, and then Justin Jefferson was at 9.8. I'm also realizing that I'm still sharing my screen, so I'm glad I didn't do anything weird. But
his browser history before he started this. So.
No, it's fine. It's a new computer. But all square. But yeah, so the targets are somewhat close. Cooper Kupp obviously led. I think there are some factors that allowed him to get that last year, especially the Robert Woods injury. Odell Beckham wasn't really available till very late. So being the only guy in a pass-heavy offense was beneficial. He might see a reduction in the targets a little bit. And on the argument for Justin Jefferson, he has ascended his game every year. Traditionally, year 3 is the breakout year for wide receivers. Last year, going into the draft, it was like he had a historic rookie season. He can't outpace that this year. Went out and did it. Now people are saying, well, he can't do this better. Maybe he does. So if I get either one of those two, I'm going to be very happy. I would take the person that you feel more comfortable. I don't think there's like a right or wrong decision there. It's supposed to be something fun.
How many more points total did Kupp have over Jefferson, and how many touchdowns did he score last year? Because I think that there's going to be serious touchdown regression. He had like 18 or something nuts.
I don't have it on my sheet here. Let me look.
Interesting note here, not necessarily fantasy-wise, but the Steelers brought in tight end Dalton Keene for a visit, just recently released by the Patriots.
I don't know who he is.
He was a third-round pick a couple years ago.
I don't even remember ever hearing that name.
He's like an H-back. Remember how they took like 2 tight ends, but they were both like H-backs, Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene?
I don't know who either of those guys are. I don't remember at all.
Sure, I'll take your word for it.
16 touchdowns last year for Cooper Kupp. I don't think that sustains. I think he's going to have less than Gabe Davis. So
yeah, so he had 300 more yards, 6 more touchdowns, but he also had 30 more targets. So
I think Allen Robinson's going to eat into his work a little bit. I don't think that
he should.
You're drafting him at his ceiling.
Well, I mean, technically, if you're picking in the first 4 picks, you're taking everybody at their ceiling.
Yeah, but some of these guys are going to do better than what they're projecting.
Okay, so we are back. It is the tail end of the second round. We have the always lovely Mark Andrews sitting there ripe for the taking.
I mean,
we also have CeeDee Lamb, Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans.
Not a conversation for me, to be honest.
I know where my heart lies.
Yeah. So, I mean, regardless of what Drew thinks here.
Drew, if you were to take a wide receiver here and get Kyle Pitts on the back half, which of those receivers would you be looking at?
So, I don't like Keenan Allen. I think Mike Williams is going to take the leap this year and overtake him as the one. Tyreek Hill, I saw Tua throw a 50-yard comeback route.
It was a great curl route, okay?
Yeah, it was great. So I don't like that. I'm not in on Mike Evans either. I had that as part of one of my bold predictions that I think that Julio Jones is going to bounce back and be a top 20 wide receiver. Okay. Mike Evans he was 25th in targets last year and he's touchdown dependent. I don't vibe with him either. I think that CeeDee Lamb is the only one you can consider at this spot. I like Michael Pittman a ton. It's a little rich here.
Yeah.
So couldn't that be why we go Andrews and Michael Pittman the next pick?
I like that a lot, actually. Yeah, I have some quotes about Pittman once we get there if he makes it back. So all right, let's do the damn thing. Let's take Mark Andrews. 87% of experts agree if we're going to take a tight end.
Sid.
So
and
I love that.
I'm the other 13% that just.
Oh, hey. So we almost got CeeDee Lamb coming back on the other side of that. That's pretty unreal. So
we could take Pitts.
Yeah.
Would you do that though? I did this last year in a league that I won. I took Waller and Kelsey at the 2.
I'm legitimately having deja vu right now, like as if we've already done this exact same song and dance on here before.
I have a bold prediction that Kyle Pitts is going to finish his tight end 1 and be top 10 amongst wide receivers and tight ends in total targets. So if he's a top 10 in wide receiver and tight end targets, why not take him here?
All right. So let me see. You said he's going to be a what in targets? No, this is enough. You know what? It's
top 10 like total wide receiver and tight end.
Just get it on the screen. I just want this. I want this documented so
I'm
that
trying
I can
to be
find
spicy as hell. I don't even care.
I like it. I like spice. I'm about that. Okay, so.
And I've drafted this way, so if people are thinking I'm just saying ridiculous shit, I own Pitts in every one of my redraft leagues, and I reached on him. I took him over Mark Andrews in my last draft.
All right, I got to get off of this call real quick.
Isaiah Likely's just eat into Mark.
we have the opportunity to have both here.
True. Okay, so
I like him over all of those wide receivers except for Pittman. And who says that Michael Pittman doesn't make it back to us?
Me. There's no way Pittman's going to be there at 4.
Where are we at on the turn here? Because I can't really see.
We're at 3-3, so we have like 20 picks. There's like no way.
Oh yeah, never mind. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me find these Michael Pittman pieces here. Okay. So here's 3 quotes that they had about Pittman in the newsletter. The way that they're using him in practice, Michael Pittman might have 140 catches this year. Michael Pittman Jr. has hit it off with Matt Ryan right away. From the start of training camp, he's been their new starter's #1 target by far, hauling in 34 passes in 13 practices. Michael Pittman broke out last year on 129 targets. His new quarterback, Matt Ryan, has peppered his #1 wide receiver with an average of 161 targets per year since 2009. For the, Pittman isn't as good as Julio, Calvin Ridley, or Roddy White crowd, Harry Douglas in 2013 led the Falcons in targets with 132.
I read that off of some douchebag on Twitter's tweet, and I was just like, if anybody else said this, I'd buy it. But this guy has one of those pictures where he just has an orange background, and he's trying to be a fantasy guy. But
I mean, to be fair, we all are trying to be fantasy guys. So
yeah, but
I'm changing my Abby right now.
You need to have a colored background, or you're not legit in this industry.
If Drew has done 97% of the work for you. If you click on this list, you will beat 97% of your competition.
And then a thread of 10 guys that everybody knows about. You don't even have to tell us anything. I love Pittman this year. I don't think that I'm worried about picking him here. I'd pick him over all 3 of those guys.
I would as well. So we saying Pittman over Pitts?
That's fine.
Are you a Pittman or a Pitts man? All right, I'll see myself out and just make the pick. All right, so Pitts went the next pick. Josh Allen just went. I'm curious now. So we're in the tail end of the 4th round here. Like, at what point do you consider a zero RB strategy? Like, when is it finished? Like, do you have to have all of your first 4? Okay, so looking at the 4th round, you still have ETN, Montgomery, Breece Hall, Cam Akers, and then obviously others below that. I don't think that we're at that threshold, at least until the next round or 2, since we took a tight end early. If we're looking at the overall total, I guess in theory you could take Herbert there. A little bit too rich for my blood, I would say. Looking at your receivers, you got Deante, Cortland Sutton, Mike Williams, Scary Terry. If you want to look a little bit deeper into what's available there, we've got Brandon Cooks is still available, Allen Robinson, Marquise Brown, Darnell Mooney. But that tier of Johnson, Williams, Sutton, McLaurin, those are probably realistically your top 4.
I saw an interesting thing. I'm not making a case here for Cortland Sutton because I don't think that's what I would do. But when I was doing some research earlier, a Seattle wide receiver with Russell Wilson there for the last 3 seasons has finished in the top 5 in red zone targets. If there's somebody on the Broncos roster right now that's going to do that this year, it's probably Cortland Sutton.
Agreed.
Do you think – I'm curious about that because Judy has like some of the best separation metrics. So do you think that's just because Sutton is a better
big body
catcher?
Size. Absolute size.
Yeah. Okay.
I couldn't agree more with that.
He's also – there's actually another – where is my mouse? Too many screens. Cortland Sutton has been reported multiple times to be Russ's favorite target during camp as well. So take for that what you will. They said the same thing about Robert Woods last year. But there's a lot of things that point to that potentially happening for sure. I'm kind of bearish on Russell Wilson. I probably would go either Deante or Terry McLaurin. But
you know what's funny, and I'm not like disagreeing, but it's funny to say you're bearish on Russell Wilson, but then you're pivoting to the receivers with the quarterback play of the Steelers and
I'm more okay with that. I think I like Deonte the most out of this group because it seems like Mitch latches onto one guy and just whenever he's in trouble, which is as soon as the ball snapped in Pittsburgh, He finds that guy and then he forces the ball. I think the scary part about Pittsburgh this year is that who becomes the main target, and is it still Deante? I think his separation that is going to allow him to continue to do that. But if he doesn't get the volume that he did, are we going to adjust the offense and have things more downfield so he has the more splash plays? Or if it's going to be this intermediate game, I don't see it happening. Like, it's just not on the cards for Mitch. I don't think it's in the cards for Kenny either if he ends up taking over or even starts week 1. But with Terry, then it's kind of the same thing. You have Dotson coming in. He's really only the main target threat at this point. But I think just knowing that Deante has done it before, that gives me more hope. Mike Williams is just his inability to do it for a full year. I just don't feel comfortable with that. I would almost even consider Brandon Cooks here and do a little bit of a reach there. But if we weren't doing zero running back, I would probably be taking ETN here at this pick and then seeing what happens on the flip side and just get whatever wide receiver. I like ETN a lot this year, but we're not doing that. So you know what? Let's play to win. I'm going to say Sutton, even though my gut says otherwise.
I still think Deante he was wide receiver 10 last year, and his air yards was like, 5.7 on average? It was something really low that
It was extremely low, yeah. So his ADOT was 8.2. It wasn't which is almost the same as Cooper Kupp's, but Cooper Kupp did a great, had a lot of yards after the catch. But Deante was also getting 10 targets a game. So I don't know if that's going to
I still think that happens. Even if it comes down, I think his air yards are going to go up, and I think it's going to balance it out. If you're getting a guy that has top 10 upside at this spot in the draft, I just think you take him. I think he has top 10 wide receiver upside. He was top 10 last year. We know what he could do. I don't think there's going to be much change in terms of – I think Pickens will eat in a little bit. Najee's still going to get a crazy workload. The only thing that I wonder is especially if Kenny starts, shout out to Flash. His life is still alive. He has life. I think that Freiermuth is going to be a bigger thing if Kenny starts. I think that Freiermuth has top 5 tight end upside if Kenny's the starter. Personally, I just –
Is that a bold prediction?
I think so.
He had 7 touchdowns last year. I know that they're going to look for him in the red zone. Kenny's been showing – in the preseason that he's looking to him. I think that he could have more than 10 touchdowns this year if Kenny's a starter. Go ahead, write it down if you want.
Does Kenny have to play the full season? Like if he doesn't start week 1, this just immediately goes out the window, or because it's on there now. So.
He had 7 touchdowns last year though with Ben.
But the way, so my issue with it is, okay, so Deante, you're saying is the alpha in that offense is going to get the primary targets, right? Then you have who's number 2? I'm guessing probably George Pickens if you were to make me guess.
We don't know though, because this Claypool out of the slot is going to be dangerous.
So then you have Claypool, then you have Najee, then somewhere in there you have Pat as well.
We're drafting on Fantasy Pros right now, right?
Yeah.
Their bold prediction is that Chase Claypool finishes as Pittsburgh's wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I don't see that. I think that Pat Freiermuth could be Bob Tonyan, where he just gets nothing, but he gets a lot of touchdowns.
Right, but I don't think he was top 10. He was top 10, but he wasn't top 5. Top 10, top 5, you got to be leading your team or second on your team in targets. That's the only path to do it, unless you Orange Julius it. And I promise you that we do not have Peyton Manning this year throwing 60 touchdowns.
So 2020 was the year. You can keep doing your thing. I just think that he's going to do more in the receiving game too. It's just not going to be all touchdowns.
Maybe. I'm bearish on either the quarterbacks that we have getting the number of attempts that Ben had last year, which means that there's just going to be less opportunities to go around. I think one person emerges. My money's going to be on Deante. But I think they're going to lean more on it doesn't. But I think that Deante is not going to be I don't think Deante could be a top 5 receiver. He could probably, where he was last year is probably his peak. But someone like Cortland Sutton, if he has the big year, he could very easily be a top 5 play. So to me, it's like you might not hit on Sutton and have him be a top 5, but I don't know if any of those other 4 have that potential.
I personally would draft safer in this spot, though, because of the wide receivers you've already taken that are going to be exploding. You just need a guy that you know could get you 15, 20 points.
But isn't that like an argument to go the other way, because you know that you have like Justin Jefferson's going to do his thing, and like you can be a little bit more risky with Sutton because you.
I go riskier later in the draft.
Yeah,
I don't go as risky higher. But I'm fine with either, because I do believe in Sutton like you do. I think that Jerry Jeudy, as much as we want him to be good so we can call him Booty, I don't think I see it.
This news just broke. So Michael Gallup just passed his physical and will not be on the PUP to start the season.
Great. I just added him and put him on my IR slot in the league. Now I got to take him off already?
All right, so we're taking Michael Gallup here.
No. All right. Well, you can choose. You can make whatever decision on who you want as your player. We'll take Deante for the Homer pick. Okay. So where we're at now, the last
now
couple
we can
picks,
take a running back.
Yes. So then Williams, McLaurin, Cooks all went off the board. We could take a running back. Etienne's still there. That's pretty dope for me.
I would consider Herbert here.
Would you?
Yeah, I think that he's going to be.
Yeah, but think about it now. So this is the short turn. Now we have the 20-some picks after this.
So do you really want to not get a running back in? Because realistically, you could have a lot there. I think that, I mean, as far as stats for Herbert, I mean, all things point to him being able to have a really good season. You're in a tough division. Last year, their game score was pretty flat. If he had a good week, it was going to be a top 6 week. So he had 9 out of his 17 games. He was 52% top 6. 70% of the time he was top 12, which was second highest in the league behind Jalen Hurts in terms of percentages. So he's definitely a safe play. A lot of room to grow there in that offense. They throw the ball a ton. I think he was top 3 in attempts last year. So
the only thing I have with Etienne is I still do worry a little bit if James Robinson eats into it at some point. I think that there's guys later yet that even if they're in a committee backfield, they could be solid RB1s and RB.
Hey, do you want to hear another one of my bold predictions?
Oh,
James Robinson's going to fall off and Etienne's just going to explode.
No, it's quarterback related.
Okay.
Trevor Lawrence finishes top 10 this year.
I actually have that on my list. Did you cheat off me?
No, you didn't.
I swear.
On the one you sent us?
I added 3 more.
Okay, so it wasn't on when you sent us, though.
Yeah, not when you sent it, but I added 3
all right,
more.
so I'm looking at healthy. At some point, you're going to get James Robinson back as well. I'm a big Marvin Jones Jr. guy. They paid Christian Kirk, which obviously, like, you can debate whatever you want about the contract. He's a solid slot receiver. They also brought in Zay Jones, who had some success with the Raiders. And I don't know, I'm feeling a little bit, not a major bounce back from Evan Ingram as well. And I know that we've kind of touched on that. But really here I'm looking at Doug Peterson and Press Taylor, what they're going to do for him from that coaching staff. I'm feeling it this year. I was really impressed. I know that they didn't get in the end zone against the Steelers, but I thought Trevor Lawrence was really good in that preseason game, and I'm expecting a huge leap.
I feel he's 2017 Carson Wentz when he just absolutely took off with Peterson. That's what I keep feeling. That's why I have him on here.
The other cool thing about Trevor Lawrence is that if you look at I don't have it's a different chart, but he was like a top, like he was averaging more than 6 carries a game, and I feel like he wasn't running as much as they wanted him to. So I think that Peterson's going to allow him to move the legs a little bit more. And I think he's in for a good season too. So if it's my vote, I'd probably take Etienne. If you're nervous about James Robinson, then I guess I would go Montgomery over Hall. But I like Etienne a lot. An interesting stat from last year, Trevor Lawrence actually led the NFL last year, 11.3 check down rate. No other QB was over 10%. So that, again, is coming from the Fantasy Football Newsletter. And they said that this is a Travis Etienne tweet.
Let me be clear on that too. I'm not worried about Etienne and Robinson because of the players. I think that Etienne is very good and explosive. I'm just worried that Doug Peterson has always been a running back by committee guy. So if he stays on that trend like he did in Philadelphia, there might even be a third running back that we don't even know of that's going to take some carries away, which is stupid.
Snoop Connor.
Yeah, it's possible. Before we move on to when you make your pick, since we talked about Lawrence, what do you guys think about Justin Fields? Because he tore it up in that last preseason game when he.
It's funny you asked. I have one more bold prediction here.
Because I love him this year.
Say what?
But
No, it's not Fields related, but kind of. I mean, Darnell Mooney. Last year I said that he was going to ascend. I think he does it even more so this year. I'm saying top 12 this year. Obviously, last year he was already operating as the wide receiver 1. They had 5 games without Allen Robinson. In those games, Mooney averaged 78.2 receiving yards, which would have ranked 7th among wide receivers. He also ranked 11th in route win rate against man coverage. I just feel like, a second-year leap from Justin Fields in any fashion doesn't have to be a major leap, but with Mooney getting peppered with targets, I got him in the top 12 this year.
Couldn't agree more.
Wow.
I love that.
Sick. Good deal. All right. So are we going ETN here?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, cool.
Because I still like Lamar when he comes back if he's still there.
Well, Jalen Hurts might be.
I don't want to miss out on AJ Dillon here.
We know that you don't.
Yeah.
I don't either. This is the short turn too, right?
This is the short turn. Yeah, so we do have a chance of immediately getting him back. You still have Mooney, Bateman on the board. Dillon, Mitchell, Chase Edmonds, Gibson went. So he's kind of had a resurgence. Shout out to Brian Robinson. Hope he is quickly recovering.
Back in the building.
Happened to him. That was really cool to see. Sounds like they didn't have any like major lasting damage, but he did have surgery.
They said that Bullet missed all of his major ligaments in his knees, which was good. So
that's awesome to hear. And then as far as QBs, still a plethora of options there. I think for me, Dillon is probably the pick. I could get talked into Jalen Hurts. I like him a lot. But
before you make the pick,
yes,
is Damian Pierce starting to creep up a little bit so we can kind of get an idea on how this is happening here?
Let me look at the cheat sheet, and we can see. Let's see. So, he's 35th. So he's right around that Cordarrelle Patterson, Singletary range. So he's in there with the starters. I mean, everybody below Singletary is really a backup option there. So he's at the tail end of the starting crew. I would anticipate that he's going to leapfrog into this like top 30 spot somewhere as the news kind of trickulates out and more drafts start happening. But it's too early for me to take him right now, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Right there, quick though, who would you rather have? Ramondre Stevenson or Damian Pierce?
Pierce.
I have a bold prediction.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
What is it about Ramondre Stevenson that you'd like to say, Drew? Because I know it's about him.
I have a prediction that Ramondre Stevenson will be a top 10 running back. They released J.J. Taylor and Kevin Harris, so they released all of their passing down options besides Ty Montgomery, who is also dealing with injuries, and he might not even be available at the start of the season. I think they did that because they're ready to give Ramondre Stevenson more work. I think he's still going to split with Damian Harrison, but I think he's going to be getting all of the passing down work. And I think that he has the upside to be in the top 10.
So this would be, okay, so say what you will about PFF, but I have to correlate this in some way to your point. Ramondre Stevenson finished as their highest grade rookie running back last year. The last 4 running backs that have done that, Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, and Jonathan Taylor, all finished as top 8 running backs in year 2.
So PFF is supporting my point. I might unblock them.
Yep.
They're allowed to be on my timeline again.
Can you go back to I didn't hear about the news for the Montgomery injury. Is it long-term?
I actually don't even remember what it is. I just know that he's fighting stuff and he hasn't been practicing. And
okay. Because to me, I feel like he is the logical receiving back in that offense if he is healthy, but that would be huge for Ramondre if he's not.
I think that he's hurt quite often too. I just don't see him as a guy that's going to – so he has an ankle injury. He was carted off in the last preseason game.
Oh.
They're not saying much. They just said that they don't expect.
Okay. I just hadn't heard anything. I'm also going to draft AJ Dillon. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alvin Kamara, though. I like that link.
So Hurts was still there. You could dip into the running backs again. If we're looking at where's our team? So right now you've got Etienne, Dillon, Justin Jefferson, Michael Pittman, Mark Andrews, Deante Johnson. I'm actually really liking this team.
Yeah, I would probably
Same.
Here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
Ooh.
I wish we could keep track of this and like see how these teams do throughout the year.
Okay, so let's see. So Burrow, Cooper, Juju, St. Brown, Prescott, Davis, Bateman, Jacobs, Mooney went 8th. That's shocking to me. That seems criminally low.
Yep.
Damian Harris, Thielen, Edwards-Helaire, Miles Sanders, Hunter Renfrow. Let's see. So you got like Elijah Moore, Drake London, Brandon Ayuk, Devonta Smith. I think that you keep pounding the running backs here. Out of this crew, it's probably gonna. Drew, I know you would take probably Hunt out of this group, but I'm really liking Edmonds still, based on what I said earlier.
I don't feel bad about taking Pierce here.
I wouldn't take Pierce over Edmonds or Hunt or either of those two. I would take Pierce over Pollard or Penny, but I personally couldn't stomach that knowing that these two guys are on the board.
I mean, I already told you my thoughts on Chase Edmonds, so that's where I'm going to be at with this, but
it's the risk aversion for me. I don't like the draft guys I don't think are going to make it through the season.
But at the same time, I don't have an issue with Pierce being in the conversation at this point.
Yeah. I like Hunt a lot too, especially with Watson not playing. I think that he's going to get a lot of touches.
Yeah.
So I think that Hunt, his injury last year was kind of fluky, and I'm not worried about his ability to stay healthy.
No, I agree.
That's why I prefer Hunt, but I wouldn't be against Pierce here either, just because I think that he has legit upside as an RB2.
I would say I think that you can get Pierce, at least in this draft, on the 9-3. So if it's me, I would take Chase, see what's available. I would probably be considering Eli Moore if he's still available on the kick of that, who just got taken. So there's that. So do you want to take Pierce here just for the sake of it? Do you keep loading up, or do you want to get any receivers for the bench? I mean, looking at what's still available from the receivers perspective, you still have like top options, like a Christian Kirk could be like a target, number one target. Robert Woods could be a number one target. Your favorite player, who we should probably just draft now, Tyler Lockett.
Oh, about that, I got to tell you guys something. In my last draft, and I'm going to have to send a screenshot to you to prove it, but he went undrafted. My narrative has finally reached completion, and he is going undrafted. We're there. I don't have to talk about it anymore. I've been marked safe of drafting Tyler Lockett, and I couldn't be happier.
I'm happy for you.
Chris Olave.
So
yeah, I'm taking Pierce here, by the way.
Okay, let's do it.
I also like Christian Kirk. I would have went with one of those two.
Okay.
I think Kirk makes it back.
He did not. Let's say there was a run on receivers.
Yeah, there was a huge run on receivers in that round. So Ramondre is still available. It looks like at this point the QBs are sliding pretty heavy. Finally clear some of these ads out, which is excellent. So still a lot of QB options on the table. Running back, you're at that tail end of like startable options. We have So we have the 2, and then you have 4 running backs at this point. Do you feel like it's worth to get Stevenson there just for the upside? From a receiver's perspective, you're kind of in some slim pickings. Jacoby Myers has actually had a lot of buzz lately. I don't know if y'all have heard the news on him, but they've said repeatedly that he's been the top receiver through camp. despite them adding to the wide receiver room both years. But pretty much all of their beat writers are pretty high on Jacoby Myers right now. Not saying that I would take him with this pick here, knowing that we have around the horn.
I mean, he's their best receiver, most consistent receiver, at least last year.
Yeah, he just couldn't get a touchdown if his life depended on it. So I'd probably go Ramondre here.
The New England Patriots wide receivers are the battle of mid. That meme is those guys. It epitomizes them.
So are we taking Ramondre here?
With this strategy here, we have such elite wide receivers that we don't ever think that we're going to have off the field outside of injury. So we should be attacking running backs in this range that we think could explode. And obviously, I think Ramondre Stevenson could explode. And if you decide to trade him in Dynasty, let me know. I'm still interested.
Probably not. Okay, so James Robinson, Chris Olave, Jacoby Myers, Trey Lance. That actually brings up one of my bold predictions. I have Trey Lance top 3 QB this year. I think his rushing upside really gives him something similar to what Jalen Hurts was able to do last year. And I think that the offense that he's in is going to allow him to do a lot of good things. So I got Trey Lance in my auction draft last night, was very happy about it. But I could see him being a top 3 player. I don't think he's going to have like an MVP caliber season or anything like that. But I do think that his rushing tendencies will allow him to really elevate into his game. So knowing that we already have Jalen Hurts, I probably wouldn't get Lance. Or maybe it's an even better excuse to do it in that last like bench spot because you have a guy that's kind of been proven like for a fantasy commodity. And then if one of those pops off or something happens, then you have that backup option. A lot of concern right now that they're keeping Jimmy Garoppolo. We didn't talk about this at the top of the show, but they restructured his contract. He no longer has he's no longer able to be traded for the season, but he will be able to be a backup, or he'll be able to be a free agent after this season. That being said, I don't see a scenario without injury that they're going to bench Lance at this point.
So
but
I was about to say that. I agree with you. I don't think that they would because I think that's dumb and you're just demoralizing him as a future quarterback. But I did read a tweet today from someone who covers the San Francisco 49ers that did say that it is understood that if Lance struggles and they go down in the division and they still think they can compete, that there is a possibility that Jimmy Garoppolo could be coming into the game. I don't believe it because I think that's dumb. Like, you want this guy to be your future. That's dumb, but they also want to win now. Yeah. And I think that Jimmy Garoppolo agreed to this restructure because he's under the assumption that that is a possibility.
So do we still want to attack running backs, or are we going to flip back and just kind of BPA this? So you're looking at like a James Cook, Ken Walker, Alexander Madison, who potentially might get traded. I think of guys that like actually having a chance of like popping this year. To me, Ken Walker seems like he could just with Penny's availability. He's also going through the hernia issue, so like that makes me a little bit uneasy. But like I think he has a better path than like a James Cook or a Michael Carter.
Michael Carter was named the starter in New York. Do you buy that? Because I don't buy it, but just something to bring.
It's the Jets, man.
Zach, do you buy it?
No, I think Breece Hall's too talented.
Yeah.
We'll see. He could very much be like he's the guy that's out there for the first snap, but it'll be interesting to see like how they get utilized in the game. But yeah, so I would say for me, we're at 11th round. I'm probably taking Myers here, or honestly, I probably would do either Lance. Myers or Lance. Yeah.
But there's still a possibility that if Hurts doesn't work, that Minshew could get time. I know it's dumb, but I live near Philadelphia, and there's talk that if he doesn't show he could be the guy and they're losing games, they might just go to Minshew and pack it in with their 2 first-round picks next year and go to get their guy.
Good.
That's right. Real life exists. It's not just fantasy. And from a real life perspective, Jalen Hurts has a lot of unanswered questions.
All right. So where are we going?
I take Lance.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
All right.
It's my quarterback in redraft, mainly because I empathize with the hair situation that he's got going on.
like that. All right,
I docked him for that.
Let's knock out these other picks pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, do you want to take Michael Carter, given that he is the starter?
I'd probably take some wide receivers here just for backups for bye weeks because we have.
Okay.
Like Sky Moore's a great pick there if he ends up being the guy. I still think Juju is, but who knows? Sky Moore's talented.
It's a good upside play for sure. I would probably take Jacoby, knowing that I can probably get Sky Moore on the back end of that. Yeah. But let's see if we can snag both of those guys.
Nope.
Joke's on me. They took Sky Moore.
Next
but with the Michael Gallup news, then.
Oh, yeah.
Can you scroll down a little bit? I just want to see some more of the names.
Rondell Moore. Then like Dotson, DJ Chark.
Yeah, I like Gallup the best there.
Same.
Cool. All right. So now we got all of our bench. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about it, but teams that have really good like early season matchups. I think for me, San Francisco has like the best early schedule. So they open up against Chicago, and then they have Seattle week 1 and week 2. The Broncos have Seattle week 1, Houston week 2. The Browns, I don't know how much stock you put into the Baker Mayfield news from this week, but the Browns open against Carolina, and then they play the Jets, then they play the Steelers, then they play the Falcons. That's probably the best 4-game starting schedule, and you can get the Browns pretty much super late. Those are probably the top 4. The Saints have Atlanta week 1, so if you're only concerned about that first week, you could go with the Saints as well. But those are probably your best matchups to start from like a receiver defense play. So do y'all feel any particular way about those?
So when I draft defenses, this could be a dumb way of doing it, but this is just how I handle it. I look a little bit at what their matchups are, but unless they're getting sacks and turnovers, it really doesn't matter, in my opinion, unless you're playing like the Chiefs or the Bills, you know are just going to put up a ton of points. I'm just looking for defenses that don't have bad matchups early, and then I pick the one that has like the latest bye. That way I don't have to deal with ad drops early on with my defense. So I took the Saints in my redraft because they don't have their bye week to week 14. I don't think their schedule is overly poor.
Yeah, they just play Tampa Bay week 2. They play Minnesota week 4. So it's like you're probably going to need to roster a second defense for those weeks if you are going to hold them, which I don't want. The other defense that I did not mention was the Colts. They play Houston week 1, Jacksonville week 2. They have Tennessee or Kansas City week 3, but then it's back to Tennessee week 4. So they have a pretty favorable schedule as well. But that's just something to keep in mind. I say I'm going to take McPherson here, Bass, and then we can see what's available on defense. I don't think we're going to make or break people's drafts by defensive stuff. But
I never want to shout out the Browns in any form or fashion, but if Manny Max is still here, I will take Cade York in like all of my drafts because the dude's kicking them from 65 routinely. And I just don't think they're going to score a lot of touchdowns if they get it.
What a division we have of kickers now. The AFC North.
Beasts.
Look at that. Look at that.
It's got a 91.
Amon is 0 running back.
If we look at the standings here, I'm not signed in.
If you want us to draft your team, send us a DM, $20 per roster. Shout out to that dude on Twitter.
Yeah, we'll give you our phone numbers for $100.
They didn't keep it, I guess. Oh well. No, don't save that.
All of my advice is free unless you want my number.
So, we'll never know how our past drafts did, but that's okay. It is what it is. So,
though I thought they were something of B's. I don't remember seeing A's the last couple of
we did A's.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we had one. We had a C on one, didn't we? Oh no, that was Smitty's Yahoo draft. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yahoo's great suck though. So, good deal.
All right. Anything else?
Like and subscribe. Stay healthy.
As our friend Zach Celadoni would say, like and subscribe.
Donate to Rockin' Around the 412. Mention that every week.
Yeah, it's our pinned tweet on Twitter at Around the 412, or you can search on GoFundMe if you are not on Twitter. Every single penny that is raised for this cause will go directly to families in the 724 and 412 areas to provide Christmas for them. We also get the family a $100 gift card for them to be able to buy groceries to provide a holiday meal. Last year, we helped 13 different families, 30 kids within those families provided Christmas in its entirety for it. So again, pin tweet on Twitter, or if you don't have Twitter, just search Rocking Around the 412 on GoFundMe. Other than that, like and subscribe. We'll see you guys next week for more Around the 412 Fantasy Football Show. For Smitty, for Joe, for Drew, we're out.